everyone, all the investors for our company. We are going to present our annual report for year 7. Our company is called Spindrift Auto Company, and I'm Cyan.
George.
Kendra.
And I'm Jisung.
First, I'm going to have a recap of what our company is doing. So first, I want to introduce the market share for starting from year 5 till 1. We introduced the new Model 2, but we forgot to increase the price. Although we conducted a market research for 80K, looks like everyone else did the same thing by transitioning into the newer model. And ultimately, we lost the market and pricing and began losing the market share dramatically. In year 5 Q4, increased price and advertising, and somehow increased market share significantly. And the next one is for the sales of our company. At the end, we got rid of Pandao because of change in exchange rate made us unprofitable, and we relocate the 9 salespeople from Pandao to our American market. And this turned things around from the previous quarter and increased our sales. And for our net income in year 4 Q4, we decreased pricing to gain market share, which made us lose our net income. And starting from year 5 Q2, we increased advertising, lower price in 2 areas.
Okay, at this point I'll take over and just kind of go over the highlights of year 7. And we have broken year 7 into the pros and cons, and we're calling it the achievements versus the downfalls. So let's go over the achievements first. So we're talking about quarter 4 of year 6 versus the quarter 4 of year 7. Just giving you a snapshot of what happened from the last quarter of year 6 to last quarter of year 7. So in that meantime, achievements. Net income increased by 15%, which is a fantastic thing for us. Also, the unit selling cost went down 1%. I know it's a small victory, but every percent counts. Earnings per share increased by 65%, which is a great thing for the shareholders. So that brings a lot of tremendous value moving forward, why they should invest in us, although we were the last company in the running. Very importantly, return on equity increased by 0.5%. I know that's not even 1%, but again, it's in a positive direction as to where we have been going down for the past 5-6 years. And return on asset increased by 12%, which means that we're utilizing our assets more efficiently to generate revenue, which is again a great value to our shareholders. Now let's talk about the downfalls. We did certain things that made the company less attractive to certain investors, and I'm just going to go over the highlights. The sales went down, the revenue went down by 25%. I know that's a huge hit, but at the end of the day, net income increased 15%. So we were able to increase net income, overall profitability, even meanwhile losing 25%, a quarter of our revenue, which is fantastic. Also, unfortunately, our market share went down 11%, but quite frankly, that's something to be expected because we're moving towards the Model 4, and we're not being competitive with other companies that are offering the lower model. So we should be selling a little less. Return on investment decreased by 150%, and let's not get into that right now. Let's move on. And this is very important. We did go bankrupt in the Q1 of year 7. We either had to liquidate or take on a debt. So we took on a huge multi-million-dollar debt to take care of our liabilities. And as a result, our long-term debt equity ratio increased by a whopping 57%. let's move forward.
Okay, so I'll be talking about our overall strategy. So to gain market share, we first went with a low-cost leadership strategy. However, in order to stay competitive, we had to then transition into a differentiation strategy. The low-cost leadership strategy wasn't working for us, so we had to invest a lot of money into research and development and come out with new models with new features and better quality to stay competitive with other companies. So we try to do this the best that we could to have that first mover advantage. So this is just explaining how our strategies have transitioned over time throughout the years.
So in year 8, what we plan to implement some restructuring is a modular change. First and foremost, we're going to increase the quality and our features of our products. That's illustrated in some of our previous investment into research so that we can develop different models. And that's really transitioning our target market and the market segment that we're going to be participating in. We did that through investing into the research and advancing the models along the line, increasing the features, and along with that, the profit, the amount of sales we're going to get from each deal and the profitability of each sale. Second is going to be increasing operational efficiency. We've learned this through some of the challenges that acted as a learning moment for us. And we've transitioned a lot of our surplus-heavy inventory into a just-in-time delivery. Just really increasing our efficiency and lessening the amount of product that we have stuck in the pipeline and tying up our resources and inventory. Leaner process in general. And then lastly, we're exiting some of our non-profitable markets. As we previously had mentioned, the profitability was affected due to massive changes to the exchange rate. So making an executive decision, we've eliminated some of our lost markets to increase, again, our overall profitability and change our standing to attract new investors.
So at this point, we're going to talk about the analysis of the industry, the Porter's 5, to be specific. It's a car industry, so we're making cars, and as everybody knows, to make car, there's high cost of investment capital required. You have to build a factory that can cost hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. Heavy regulation, a lot of toxicity in making tires and all the other components of the car. Not to mention the greenhouse gas from the emission. High R&D costs. There's a lot of money and man hours poured into designing a car and into the production processes. So the threat of new entry obviously is low for obvious reasons. Suppliers' power is moderate because suppliers have high influences on price, like the motor manufacturers in Asia or Mexico or window manufacturers all over the world. These guys have scalability, they have economies of scale, and they do have a lot of power when negotiating with the car manufacturers. Now the next I would like to talk about is the buyer's power. Extremely price sensitive. So the buyer's power is very high in this industry. High ability to substitute, that's another thing. And there's a lot, it's a very sticky industry, just kind of like Apple products, and high switching cost. So there is somewhat of a brand loyalty when it comes to cars. So the buyer power is high, and it's our job to market ourselves to gain market share there. Also, the threat of substitution is moderate because, let's be honest, right now, car is the only really thing that meets the need of our mobility, for Americans anyways. We don't have public transportation like Europe does, the train stations, the bus. I mean, we have nothing that really works, especially in the Bay Area. So, the threat of substitution, we think is moderate to relatively low. Another electrical market, the bullet train that's being considered in California can change the market, but we truly believe that car is going to be around for a long haul. I'm sorry. So let's to tie things up, the final force, which is the rivalry along competitors. Obviously, there are a number of manufacturers that dominate this market. Just to name a few: GM, Toyota, Volvo. I mean, there are a number of players around the world, but so the competition is extremely high. Okay, and then we can move forward to the next slide.
So this slide here is just illustrating how we changed our strategy over time. So as you can see in the Model 1, we were going with a low-cost leadership strategy. And then over time, we decided to invest a lot of money in R&D. And as you can see, our Model 4 has a lot of new features, it's better quality. So this just illustrates how we've evolved our strategy over time. Thank you, and we'll open the floor for questions.